So I'm thinking that Will Smith is gonna have a return to the public eye. I think he's gonna make a comeback. I do think it's gonna be very vulnerable. It might have something to do with like public speaking, motivational speaking, education, mentorship, maybe even coaching, but probably something through the lens of like communicating with people on a larger scale of exposure. Things like publishing, podcasting, broadcasting. It's not that I don't think he's gonna be doing something with acting or being in a movie again. I just feel like it's gonna have a little bit more soul to it. It just gives me vulnerability. Let's talk about the predictions I had for him back in 2023 and what I'm kind of seeing for him now. So if we look on my Twitter back in 2023, I did a kind of overview post on the fact that I'd been making videos about them since that summer. I did think that they were gonna have an amicable separation.
My wife's name out your fucking mouth!
The South Node was going over his natal Venus. That's also happening for Hailey Bieber. And that's usually going to bring relationship stuff up from the past. My best guess from a PR standpoint is we're going to see them back in the headlines. It's going to be about their relationship. And if Jada is very concerned about her career, it'll give her a good opportunity to have the dramatic moment and then be like, you can hear all about it, or we will address it in something that is maybe like a resurgence of Red Table Talk, a new book coming out, a interview, journalism, publishing, writing, speaking, maybe like creating. I know Will Smith had like a YouTube series. I could see something like that again.
So I was obviously right about this later on in the year. Jada ended up having a book tour where she was kind of like saying it was a tell-all, and this had a lot to do with the home, the family, their past. Because of their life partnership, I was like, okay, this might not look like a typical divorce. It was later confirmed months later that they did already have a separation. This was announced around the date that I had a prediction for there being some relevance around the date of the slap that happened at the Oscars. This is also when Jada's book tour kicked off. During her press tour, she also reveals, again, relevance back to that time in 2023 during the slap, that there was actually an interaction prior to this that added some extra context. At the time, a lot of people were acting like he ruined his career forever for a woman, as if this wasn't like the wife and mother of his children. And I said, I don't think his career is ruined. Maybe it looks that way because he didn't have anything like major coming out at the time, but that people get humiliated in their marriages every day and the earth is still spinning. Also, within this prediction from summer of 2023, I was wondering if there was going to be some sort of overlap with an indication that he had been with another man, bringing his sexuality into question. And then we were hit with the Dwayne Martin drama. So there was a lot of shocking romantic things coming up. We said 11th, 9th, or November 9th and the 13th were a highlight dates, and this came out on November 15th. So I got that to the day, baby. I don't know what it was. I was just clocking them left and right. Like, I feel like I really had them under my astrological needle for some time, like down to the dates. The reason I'm mentioning this all now is because in that July 20th, 2023 prediction, I did mention early 2025, specifically that the South Node was on Will's Venus. So again, bringing things up from the past romantically and through partnerships. And then it was going to hit Jada's Venus in January 2025. So she might kind of go through some of the drama that we saw Will Smith go through at the time. However, looking at Will Smith's chart now, okay, ready? I'm gonna show you what I'm looking at. Will Smith is a Gemini rising, right? Jada's a Sagittarius rising, meaning that their charts are flipped. So what one goes through at one given time, the other is going through the opposite, at least when we're discussing the nodes. So at the time, over the last 2 years, while the North Node was going, for example, through Will Smith's 11th house, which has a lot to do with the public, your public perception, the fact that he's like a famous person contextually, this is the way that people are seeing you, viewing you, your rejection or acceptance from the public, your larger sense of belonging in the world. Jada Smith's North Node was going through her 5th house, which is entertainment. She was writing a book, she was doing a press tour, she was having the attention on her romantic life, on her rendezvous, right? We learned about all of her, what was the word? Not situationship, her entanglements, right? So North Node just recently entered Will Smith's career sector at the beginning, in the middle of January 2025. So there's gonna be a lot of emphasis on his career now. This is like a spotlight. There's a need to prioritize this energy. Things are gonna start getting louder and more faded in this area for him. This kind of indicates a comeback by default. What's interesting to me is that as we get into late spring, summer, even starting at the end of March, we're gonna have both Saturn and Neptune hanging out on his natal Chiron. Chiron is the asteroid of like wounded healer, anger, sensitivity, vulnerability, where we still have like an ouchie sometimes. He had his nodal return last year, so there was already this like retracking onto the path that he's supposed to be on in life. He's been dealing with the eclipses in these areas on his natal placements. South Node naturally has been uprooting and kind of brushing up a lot of things that were beneath the rug in terms of his romantic life, in terms of his home, his family, his children, his roots, his ancestry, where he comes from, his childhood, why he is the way that he is. So if we look at Jada's chart, now the South Node has just entered Jada's career sector. Sometimes this is a good time to lay low and to focus on the family and to focus on the foundation and the private life. So where Will Smith already dealt with all this karmic upsweeping of things that are at the base of his life, the foundation, the deeper anchor of who he is as an individual based off of where he comes from and what he's built for himself, Jada is now having this emphasis to invest into that area, to double down in and to get very aligned with and to put career on the back burner. And that's not to say to stop working, but rather that this is usually a time where people take their foot off the gas. Kylie Jenner recently had this over the last year and a half. Kylie used to be this very, very loud presence on social media with all of her businesses. She still worked over the last 2 years, but we started to see her kind of hone in more as a mother, more private, more soft, right? That's what Jada just recently stepped into. Now with the South Node going through her career sector, yes, but also going over her natal placements in her 10th house, public image, accomplishments, it's gonna hit her Pluto, it's gonna hit her sun, it's gonna hit her moon, it's gonna hit her Mercury, her midheaven. There can absolutely be what is like another phase of us having this very dramatic, very parasocial pointing of fingers of the Smith family. A lot of karmic things around their family, overall, their family, their marriage, and what we believe represents like a husband and a wife, a man and a woman, a mother and a father. Like, I don't know why they have like in this lifetime accidentally become like the caricatures of social media discourse when we talk about these themes, but we're likely going to see what is it like around 3, 4, 5 of all of that. And then naturally Saturn and Neptune are going to temporarily enter Jada's 5th house of love, sex, romance, children, pregnancy, entertainment, all of that. And that's not inherently bad either, but it's to say that I want to keep an eye on them by default, and we'll kind of see how this unravels. I do think Will's going to come back into the public eye a little bit more loudly and proudly, and I do think Jada has some karmic things that are probably going to be going on that we will see very publicly. This is very much just the tip of the iceberg. Saturn is definitely going to challenge both of them, as well as Neptune, and Will Smith just had very, very personal eclipses, so we will see how this goes.